I know why you came. Heard I had that fire.
What's good, y'all, and welcome back to another episode of Peace of Mind, where we value our what, our health, our body, and our time. And I'm not gonna lie to y'all, I am back with another episode, and today we are talking about the 4 agreements. I love the podcast so much, I don't know what it is. I feel like even if 5 people listen every single day, 10 people listen every single day, one person, if myself listens, I'm gonna always podcast because it's so therapeutic, so relieving, so helpful, so supportive, and I know that somebody out there can connect to what I'm going through, what I'm thinking, my perspective in the world, my point of view, and one day I really hope that I can go back and show people like this clip and also get other people's point of views and perspectives. So without further ado, we shorten our podcast clips because people's listening spans and attention spans are not necessarily the greatest unless it's like prime time, what's the rhyme? But we're talking about the 4 agreements, and the introduction to this is, what is the 4 agreements? What does that mean? It's a book that so many people talk about who are in the literary world, who like to read all the time. And it's only a little over 100-page read, like 120, and the words are pretty big on each page. So I really love the book. I think that you should get the book. I think it's a great book. And the 4 agreements are basically 4 values, 4 prominent areas that they think, the author thinks, who I can't remember the name of right now, that you should really take control of in your life. Because if you do so, it will bring you an extended peace of mind podcast name. And I think that's very important as well. So what are the 4 agreements before I get into what I perceive them to be, or my takeaways in the book? They are: be impeccable with your word. Don't take anything personally, which is big for me because I do. Don't make assumptions, and always do your best. So I'm going to reverse engineer, and before I start talking about them, I'm going to talk about the introduction. The introduction, it says the 4 agreements, and it says like the Toltec, and basically the Toltec is all of the thoughts and ideas that come to our mind and how we should disconnect from our brain sometimes, because we think when there's an idea that's fostered in our mind that that's who we are, or that's what it's telling us to do, when in actuality that's like the environment in which we were raised. And that doesn't necessarily mean just because our brain is telling us to do that, that's God all the time, or that's a religious fear or a spiritual fear or a sign from the universe. Like sometimes those Toltec thoughts can be bad, unhealthy, frustrating. So that's what the introduction really talks about, which I thought was pretty fascinating and cool, because I never differentiated it like that before. And I was like, dang, like, why am I thinking this? And some of those thoughts are good. Some of those thoughts are intuition, but using your discernment in every single situation to determine when you should not be acting on those thoughts, because every thought is a vote of our character or vote against our character. The next thing is the American dream. So like, what is the American dream? Your typical standard: you have a partner, you might have a couple of pets, whether those are dogs, cats. You have this medium-sized to large-sized house, or maybe small, depending on where you want to live. You have all of your loved ones around. You have a prominent career that's going extremely well, that you're balanced. You have kids, if you want kids or not. Basically, like that model of what success looks like and how you deemed or reach success, and kind of like how we've been conditioned to believe what is success, what isn't success. Why do we think certain things are success? If I don't have kids, am I still successful? And how we never really had a decision growing up, because we are a product of our environment, and just how important and powerful the brain is. We've been conditioned to think certain things, believe certain things, have certain beliefs, core beliefs, versus what we truly believe in. It takes a truly aware mind to uncondition yourself, or want to even start the process of thinking to want to uncondition yourself, to truly find what you believe in and stand on what you believe in. It really gets into the totality of every single piece and every single item that goes into our thought process and the way we think. And since like there's not 2 brains in our head, it's like, this is my brain, this is my friend's brain. a lot of the times we can think that what we think is the right way all the time, when in actuality it's just our point of view and our perspective of the world and of life. So it talked about that a lot, our environments, everything adults say we typically agree with until we get to a certain age, right? That 16, 15, 17, 18, going to college, and that's our first huge breakaway for those individuals that do, or once you get out of your parents' house or whatever environment you were in, right? If you were an orphan or not, like once you get out of that environment, you really allow your brain the chance to think for itself, to be independent of, to figure out what you like, what you dislike, decisions that you've made previously, and how you've handled those. You know what I mean? I think that is extremely important. It's extremely big, and it did a lot of background introduction before getting into those points. So again, before I even get into the four agreements, definitely suggest you read. It's a short book, 100-ish pages. Do a chapter a night. I used to be nervous about reading because I was like, reading is a lot, feels like a lot, 500, 600, 700 pages. Me personally right now, until I build up my stamina to more, like I do one chapter a night, and I typically get through a book within like a couple of weeks, 2 to 3 weeks or a month, and I enjoy it because I don't feel overwhelmed, and it doesn't feel like, it does feel digestible, which is really good for me. Right now I'm reading Atomic Habits, which that book is really good, very interactive. Started off very graphic with someone like basically losing all functional control over their body and how they had to rebuild their habits because of their nerve damage, and just their thought process behind how every little habit builds into something deeper, and how we got to think of something like, if you're going to the gym, your goal shouldn't be like, oh, I'm going to the gym 3 times a week, versus like, I'm athletic, right? Like, because athletic is something you can tie your identity to, and they have 3 different identities: outcome-based, process-based, and identity-based. And I'll talk about that in the future when I do a podcast topic on that. But that's a really, really good book so far, so I like it. I think that's a larger book, 300-400 pages, but I'm cruising through. So without further ado, the 4 agreements. The first one is be impeccable with your word. This one is really like mind what you say. I think I'm really good at communication, which is also very powerful and very scary, because when I get mad or frustrated or angry or sad or emotional or glad, or I probably said that, or mad and I know I've said that, you can say things and you think that since it isn't a gun or a sword or a slap in the face, that it doesn't hurt people the same, if not worse. But it really can affect people's soul. People can remember things that they might not bring up or still interact with you, but think about things. And I think with me being very sharp with my words at times during the past, I forget even the things that I say out of anger or out of frustration. And there was 3 things that my mom and my family told me that you have to be mindful of. So 1 is when somebody's mad, angry, upset, their emotions. 2 is when money is involved. And 3 is when you are living with someone and or traveling someone. Those are 3 judges of character that really tell you a lot about the compatibility, right? And I would add a bonus one like religious and spiritual fears, how somebody acts in those different components and conversations. I think that that's really big. But the purpose is be impeccable with your word, be mindful of what you say. And people, when they're mad or angry, they be like, oh, I didn't mean to say that. Yes, you did. You didn't mean to say it how you said it, but at that point, that person has already taken what they wanted to take from it and kind of like categorized you or compartmentalized you for that. And it can be hard to get somebody to change their perspective once you've done that, right? If I say, can you please be quiet so I can finish my book? Or, hey, do you mind giving me a couple of minutes so I can finish my book? That could be a nicer, more digestible way of saying something versus like, I need you to stop talking, like you've been talking for an hour. The intent of both of those messages are for you to stop talking so I can finish. But there's definitely one way that's more digestible and more respectable than the other way. And that can get misconstrued when people are frustrated, angry, mad, upset, X, Y, and Z. So I would just be mindful about that. Be impeccable with your, and there's a lot of great examples that I would put in this podcast, but it would literally be 6 hours long if I did it. But I definitely recommend reading a book, be impeccable with your word, be intentional about your communication, take a break if you can before saying something that you regret or you might not be able to take back. 2, don't take anything personally. Ooh-wee, don't take anything personally is so big. Like when people don't wish me happy birthday, or when people say something that hurts my feelings, or when people forget something, or when people do whatever. I am quick to take it personal. I think about a lot of things. I'm not perfect, but I think about a lot of other people. And I think that sometimes we think that people's decisions has so much to do with us, and we're so consumed with us, with Chris is consumed with Chris at times, that we forget a lot of the things don't have to do with that person. People are going through their own challenges or struggles or trying to maintain and balance. And if people feel pressured that every single time that they do something or don't do something as a result of the friendship and the relationship, then people probably won't be around because it's too hard for them. It's too stressful, especially in that season of life, everything that they're going through. And they don't want to feel like every time they make a mistake or forget something that is going to end in a gigantic disagreement or disconnection of friendship, relationship. And honestly, I'm a victim of that. To be honest, I've done that a couple of times. I wish I didn't, and I acted out of emotion, right? So there's that, and I have to accept the consequences and reactions that come from a result of that, and hope that one day whatever is meant to be will be, but also accepting that it also might never be the same again, right? And learning from those mistakes or learning from those lessons, right? Every lesson is a blessing, not even in disguise, depending on the perspective within your eyes. I want to be a poet one day. But don't take anything personally. There's been a lot of times since reading that book where I'd be like, I could take this personally, but I don't. Or like other people's actions are based off of how they grew up, their environment. So don't necessarily customize it to you because everything's not about you. Don't take it personally. Number 3, don't make assumptions. We all make assumptions, and assumptions are so hard. And I would start off saying, if you are going to make assumptions, don't voice your assumptions out loud. If somebody shows up late, or somebody does this, or somebody's mad, or somebody does anything, don't take it personally and don't make assumptions, because you don't know what somebody's going through. Even if it seems clear, even if it seems like it's apparent what's going on, the truth is you really don't know what's going on. That person could have been having the worst day, and yes, that day could have fell on your birthday or on Christmas or on your best friend's, 13th annual Halloween party, but you just don't know. So I think it's better, the purpose of don't make assumptions was always ask questions like, hey, why were you late? Or, hey, what did you have going on? Or, hey, did you remember it was my birthday? That way you can truly get an understanding or perspective and then take what they say for it. And at that point you can choose to believe them or not. But it's best to give everyone the benefit of the doubt instead of making assumptions, because assumptions have a whole different level of creativity that you might not be able to come down from that rabbit hole, or once you finally realize that your assumption is not the truth, you might feel bad. So it's definitely a habit that I had. I'm not too bad at making assumptions, but I've checked myself in a lot of situations since reading the book and since living life. Let me ask this person this question, or let me ask that person that question. Be very intuitive, very thought-provoking about what I'm going through and what I'm doing. So this is not an Orange Fanta commercial ad, but the soda is really good. I love Orange Fanta, even though I don't drink soda like that. So don't make assumptions, y'all. We're a third of the way through, or 3/4 of the way through. Don't be impeccable with your word. Don't take anything personally. Don't make assumptions. And the fourth one, always do your best. I started using this lately at work. I have a very demanding job, very dynamic job. I probably do 3 million things at one time at work, because that's how my brain operates. I do that. I do 3 million things. I'm not even going to list them, but always do your best. So one of my managers was like, hey, can you get this done by this? And it felt like a very overwhelming task by the deadline or by the task. And I was like, I don't really know, or I'm not sure. This is what I'm thinking in my head. And it just didn't necessarily feel right. But what I told both of them was I'm going to do my best and let God do the rest. And that worked for me. That worked for my life. My dog is over here, y'all. No, Megan, no. Megan, no. Megan, no. Get down, Megan. I'm podcasting right now. Get down, Megan. Get down, Megan. Sorry, y'all. My dog loves affection, which I love to give to her, but not at this moment. No, Megan. Do your best. You know what your best looks like internally. You know what that feels like. And that might not necessarily be the same from Monday to Friday, Tuesday to Thursday, this week to next week. And sometimes you might do better, but do your best, and when you know that you're doing your best, I think you'll have internal peace. You'll have a peace of mind when people are saying like, "Hey, I wish you could do this, wish you could do that," and you can say like, "I was doing my best in that season of life, giving everything that I had." There's some people that were frustrated at me, or mad at me, or sad at me, or wanted me to show up more, and I wanted to show up more, but nobody knows every single thing that you're going through. Nobody knows the life that you're living. So like with all of the habits and systems and things that you have running on a daily and consistent basis, like even if people are doing similar things, it can feel different to you versus everything that you've been through. So once you know that you're doing your best, I would take peace in that, and that doesn't mean you can't be frustrated or upset, but you don't have to beat yourself up too much about what's going on after the fact. And I am moving towards that, doing my best with my relationship with God, with my relationship with my family, with my relationship with my friends, with my relationship with my romantic partner, with my relationship with my colleagues, my associates, like doing my best and knowing that after that, whatever outcome as a result of it is what was meant to be, at least for me, because I can't do more than my best in that season, and my best could grow based off of my experience and my exposure, but that's what I would say. After the 4 agreements, what they really talked about was breaking old agreements. So it's so hard to break old agreements and the conditions that we've been taught through, and all of these different habits that we might not necessarily want anymore, that we picked up from other friends, that we picked up from family, that we picked up from school, that we picked up from the environments in which we were born in, grew up in, learned from other people. But I think if you really want to make a difference, if you really want to make a change, some of those agreements can be years to break, which can feel daunting, but focusing on the system versus the outcome is extremely important, and that's reflected in the book that I'm reading now, and really doing some research, really being vulnerable with those people who also are going through similar things, knowing that you're not the only one in that specific journey, and asking how other people have broke those agreements, how long it took for other people, but being mindful that your story and journey is different than somebody else's story and journey. So breaking old agreements and building new agreements that are helpful and that are conducive to your lifestyle and what you have going on. So I think that that's extremely important, extremely big. Identifying that, being self-aware and being conscious, and knowing that it's going to take time, giving yourself grace and patience. And I think that this is a season of grace for me, that I know that I've made mistakes with friends, old friends, friends that I still wish I had, for lack of better, because I love them. I know that they loved me, and it wasn't necessarily the most compatible in our seasons of life, but it's all love at the end of the day. We're here for a short period of time. Life is short. Life goes by quick. Everyone wants to leave a legacy of positivity, I would hope, and happiness, and it can be so difficult through the different curveballs that we are thrown at, but trying your best to break those old agreements so you can live a joyful, fruitful, long living lifestyle that you are proud of. Because yes, other people can say they're very proud of you, but are you proud of you? And I think that that's very big. That's a profound breakthrough, even for me saying this out loud, which is why I love podcasting. Are you living a lifestyle that you are proud of? So just being mindful about that. And once you break those agreements, it kind of like results into like your new dream, like what you're proud of, what you're happy of, what you're thankful for, like what that new lifestyle looks like for you. And you could have picked up that old American dream or that old dream in general from somebody who that doesn't even align with what you want. You thought that you wanted that, but after further time has gone through, no, Megan, no. She's trying to get back up here on this couch, y'all. No. Sit down. It aligns to your new dream, something that you're proud of. When it's all said and done, like, are you proud of you? Are you happy for you? And I think that that's the biggest thing, not even selfishly, but just internally in the way that you think about so much in the world. So just being mindful of that, and that's what I'm trying to do now. I just turned 24. I am very proud of me. I have been through a lot growing up, different challenges, different obstacles. Really didn't feel like I necessarily had the support from my colleagues growing up, and they're in different areas because of how many challenges that they've been exposed to. And I honestly don't blame them. Like, everybody goes through different things, right? But the environment in which I grew up was just so challenging for me and felt so overwhelming, so daunting. So I'm very hyper aware of putting on for my people. You know that song, I put on for my people, on. But for real, putting on for my people, putting on for my city, putting on for my family, but also knowing like, Chris, you don't have to do that. That's something that you feel, that's something that you think based on everything that you've been through, that you have to show up in this magnificent way that other people might not feel that same internal pressure. And being aware of that, which I'm starting to realize and going to therapy, and I'm breaking some of those conscious perspective thoughts that I had that other people might not share, not even because it's bad, but just because we all are a culmination of everything that we've been through. So just being mindful of that is extremely important. The conclusion of the 4 agreements is, one, be mindful that you're making the dream that is for you, not the American dream, not a different country's dream, not the dream that we grew up in, the environment in which we grew up in, but something that you are happy and proud of and joyful of at the very end of the day, your specific legacy, right? Whatever that looks like for you based off of everything that you've been through, I just think that it's extremely important to do that for you. That way you don't have resentment or you don't have frustrations when it's all said and done. I think that the 4 agreements are extremely important. Be impeccable with your word. Be mindful of what people say. This is an oldie but a goodie statement, but they say that people don't remember what you said, but they remember how you made them feel. And the way we communicate with people are definitely connected to like our inner feelings and even in our connections, even if people address that to you or not. Don't take anything personally. I am horrible at that, and I'm getting better at that, but I've seen how me taking things personally have caused some downfall and frustrations in my friendships and relationships and situationships and all types of dynamics and relationships that I have going on. So be mindful of other people have things going on, and you don't know why they made the decision that they made or how that triggers them or how that provides them, and they might not be ready to discuss that, and it can be sad and it can be unfortunate, but not taking things personally if you don't know will help you get closer to a peace of mind and acceptance and understanding. Don't make assumptions. You don't know what people are going through. The opposite of making assumptions is ask questions. If you really want to know, ask questions. They might not answer your question, but ask questions, see what they say, and go from there. And then the last thing is always do your best. My saying is do your best and let God do the rest. If you're not spiritual and religious, then leave it at just do your best. Always do your best, and your best looks different from day to day, but you have an idea of what that looks like, what that feels like on that specific day. And if you're unable to do that, then have peace in knowing that you're doing your best with what you have. My call to action for you all is to read the book, read the 4 agreements. I read a chapter a night. I think it's a great book. If you read the book, put that in the comments. Let me know what you've gotten from the 4 agreements. I think it's extremely important for everyone to read. If you don't like the book, I would also love to hear those thoughts and hear why you don't like the book. Because I love the book. I give it like a 9.6 out of 10, and I think that I thoroughly enjoyed it. My takeaway advice is be open-minded, be coachable, be understanding of other people's perspectives, and people say that they are, but genuinely like pause, take yourself out of your shoes and everything that you've learned in your life and have the morsel or have the idea that somebody could have a completely different life and completely different perspective, and taking time to understand that. So I really hope you enjoyed this episode of Peace of Mind, where we value our health, our body, and our time. That's my dog, Meg. She wanted to say goodbye. And until next time, we're out.
I know why you came. Heard I had that fire. Well, welcome to the flame. I love all my first time.